Oh, good, thank you. Howdy, I'm Jeffrey Snover. Today I'm going to give a very different kind of talk than I usually give. This is a very interesting time in the industry, and it's time for us to kind of step back and take a look at things. And that's sort of one of the jobs of a technical fellow. Technical fellow has the ability to, kind of not get so focused in on the day-to-day. We have a bit of time to step back and look at the general trends. Now in general, we look at the general technology trends and say, hey, there's this great opportunity here, hey, there's this great threat there, and here's what we need to do about it. And as myself and a number of other technical fellows were having conversations, we realized, hey, there's this completely other thread of things that we need to be thinking about and discussing, and that's what resulted in this talk. And so this is, software development in an age of social responsibility. So just to be clear, this is not a technical building session, right? Skill building session. This is a very different type of session. I hope you will like it. Hang in there a bit. It's not your typical session. These are my own views. These are not the views of the company, although there will be parts that are, where I'll tell you what Microsoft is doing in this area. In fact, it's one of the things I'm proudest about at Microsoft, working for a company who's in the lead on some of these discussions. But just to be clear, these are my own opinions. A lot of these will be forward-looking points of view, it's emerging, right? So we'll see how this all works out. So here's sort of the agenda. I'm going to make the case for why we all need to become better engineers, right? To deliver better services, deliver better products, indeed, to be more socially conscious. And what are the issues that we need to address? I'll talk a little bit about what Microsoft is doing, because as I said, we've got a fantastic, I guess he's now the president, Brad Smith. Satya, of course, he talks about this stuff, he's great, but also Brad Smith. We got two great leaders who've been leading some fantastic initiatives that I want to talk about. And then all the stuff you hear and you're like, yeah, great, but what do I do? Well, if you know me, I'm a very practical guy. I'm always looking for yep, that's where we want to go, and here's what I do tomorrow, and the next day, and the next day. And just to set context here, what we need to do is not particularly well defined. The approach for what needs to get done is, however, and you'll see that. All right, it starts with the concept of Marc Andreessen's paper. In 2011, Marc Andreessen wrote a paper that said, software eats the world. So what does that mean? In that document, he really put forth two hypotheses. By the way, I see people doing pictures of the screen. If you do that, you definitely need to get the Office Lens application. It is crazy good. It really is, because you're sitting there and you get this skewed rectangle, and it worked with MSR to go and produce a normalized rectangle. It's crazy good. Office Lens. Anyway, back to our regularly scheduled event. Sorry. Yeah, it's my view. That's my view. Okay, so software eats the world. He really said there are two hypotheses. One, software is eating traditional businesses. Okay, so think about bookstores being really kind of devastated by Amazon, ads being taken over by Google, music by iTunes, Spotify, taxis by Uber. Okay, that software eats the world. And for those businesses that are not being really threatened by software businesses, the value of the product, more and more the value of the product, or the value chain of the product, is being delivered or controlled through software. So think through a car. The average car today, this is crazy when I found this out, average car today has somewhere between 10 million and 100 million lines of code in your car. How's that for a scary thought? And of course, the more luxury cars are the ones that have more code in it, right? Because software is delivering more value to the product. And the software does stuff like engine control systems, safety systems, navigation systems, entertainment systems, etc. So the software is delivering more and more the value of the product. So those are the two hypotheses. Software eats the world. Every business needs to pay attention to this, because it's either going to replace you or the product that you deliver, more and more the value is going to come from software. So if you're not great at software, you are in trouble. Okay, so 2011, interesting hypothesis. True? Not true. Let's take a look. Oh, and in this, his bullet point was, companies in every industry, do not think that you are immune. Every industry needs to assume that there is a software revolution coming. This is a list of the largest companies ranked by market value in 2017, okay? This is a worldwide list. The highlighted ones are those companies whose primary value is driven by software. Over half of the top companies in the world, value is driven by software. 2017, last year. When Andreessen wrote the article in 2011, this was the list of the top companies. The highlighted ones are the ones whose business is primarily driven through software. Okay? So 2011, he makes this hypothesis. Here are the companies that are software companies. 6 years later, this is the case. I assert his hypothesis is true. He said every company needs to become a software company. Now, a number of the ones on this list, JP Morgan, GE, etc., they were on the previous list, and I did not highlight them. So even these companies, right? JP Morgan says, hey, they're not looking at the other banks as their existential threat. They're looking to Silicon Valley for the biggest disruptors. GE, undergoing digital transformation, seeing that they're going to drive their business through software. So even the ones that weren't highlighted, a number of them are focused in on getting great at software. Okay, so software is important. So what? Well, let's do some engineering here, right? As engineers, what do? We look at the data, we have hypotheses, we extrapolate from the data, and make our best guesses. Ray Kurzweil talks about the law of accelerating returns, okay? In this diagram here, he's basically showing let's see, what are we showing? This is calculations per second per $1,000. And you've seen charts like this all the time. But the point is that here we are in 2015, and basically 40 years from now. I picked 40 years because I'm about to come up on 40 years in the industry, and it's been about 40 years since the transistor came out, a little bit longer than that. But I think many people entering their careers now will be in the industry for at least next 40 years. So let's think through what things are going to be like 40 years from now. Well, the law of accelerating returns basically says, in not too distant future, your ability to spend $1,000, you'll be able to get the compute power of all the current human brains on the earth for $1,000. Okay, so that great technology thing continues to go. So what does that actually translate to? Okay, so where will we be in 40 years? Well, let's talk about where we are today. Today, we have planetary cloud infrastructure. That's really how I describe Azure. AWS to a lesser degree, but it is planetary scale, data centers everywhere throughout the world. There are over 2.5 billion cell phones per user. There are over 6 connected devices per user in 2020, or that's the expectation. We have smart homes, we have smart power grids, we have smart chemical processing plants. And the trends, what are the trends? We see trends around information delivery, information and education delivery, control over the physical world with things like IoT, biological control systems. Scott Hanselman, superstar Scott Hanselman, has an artificial pancreas that is controlled through open source software. How crazy is that? So literally, his life, you get your pancreas wrong, that's like life or death stuff. So literally, software is controlling his life. As crazy as that sounds, true. But think of where we're going to be in 40 years. Okay, now, attention management, surveillance, professional cybercrime, nation state, these are the cyber attacks, these are the trends. Let's go over that list again. Biological control systems. surveillance systems, nation-state cyber attacks, cyber crimes, control over the physical world, right? And think of where this is going to go over 40 years when $1,000 gives you the ability to have the compute power of all the human brains in the world, okay? So kind of a big deal. So really this talk came out of that thinking, right? Doing that analysis and saying, hey, you know, what's going on here? And the question was this: if software eats the world, where did that software come from? And the answer is engineers, right? What could possibly go wrong? Right? I think we know the answer. Okay, so really it was this hypothesis. If we, you, and you, and you, and me, if we are the people building the fabric of the future, we need to step back and ask ourselves, what kind of world do we want to build? Because software is going to define the world, right? And software makes things happen, it allows a set of things to happen, and it prohibits a set of things from happening. Okay? So software embodies policy. Software embodies values. And we need to get that in focus and start to ask ourselves some hard questions. Now you might say, well, you know, hey, I just code what I'm told to, right? Somebody else makes that decisions. That's above my pay grade. No. You are responsible for both your actions and the actions and consequences of your code, your product, your services. You are individually responsible. The fact that you're a member of team does not diminish your moral responsibility for your participation in something. So you really do need to think through what it is that's happening and make moral decisions, right? And you have a voice. Look, there was a Reddit thread recently that said, what's the craziest / immoral / illegal thing you've ever done at work? And there was one, this crazy stories. And there was this one, and he said, well, the CEO wanted to hack into our customers' accounts to find all this information, and they couldn't find anybody who would do it, and I was the young engineer, and so I did it for him. Okay, so that was interesting. And so I thought about that, and I said, okay, well, wow, you did that. That's no bueno. But what he said was, the CEO couldn't get the senior people to do it. And so he came to me and basically intimidated him. The senior people wouldn't do it. You have a voice in what you do. You know, if you're being asked to do something that you feel is wrong, you don't have to do it, okay? Now, that has consequences, of course. But also think about this. You really do have far more power than you appreciate, right? You have your choice of projects and employers, and you should decide whether a company's business aligns with your values when you decide to do it. I will tell you, this is stuff we think about as managers and stuff, right? Like, oh, we want to do this. Will people actually do that? I mean, we think about that, and sometimes the answer is no, they don't want to do that. And Microsoft's obviously very keen on being clear about our moral standing, you know, what our business model is, how we make money. Look, I'm very proud of that. Our business model, I think, is incredibly noble. Our business model is not to take you and your attention and sell you to some advertisers. Our model is to make you and your companies successful by achieving more. Like, if you don't succeed, we don't succeed. I think that's very noble, and I think that it helps us attract the best talent. So as you go and you decide what projects am I going to work for, what companies am I going to work for, think through, is that something that you're going to be proud of? Does that, you know, Satya says it so well. That guy's so good. He said, work is too important. You invest too much of your life force for it not to have meaning. And he said, I don't even like that framing. He says, I don't like you thinking about working for Microsoft. What I want you to do is I want you to think about how you can leverage this incredible platform we call Microsoft to bring about the change you want to see in the world. Wow, what a crazy thought. It's great. Anyway, you have far more power than you realize. Okay, so that's the why. I hopefully make the case for why we need to become better engineers. But really, you know, what's the issues? Is there really a problem here? and I'll assert, yeah, there are some real issues we need to deal with, right? Because the future provides both challenges and opportunities. Now, there has been this progression of technology, right? We have had industrial revolutions before. Many people believe, and I do believe, that we are in the process of a fourth industrial revolution. This is pretty huge stuff, right? First one was all steam power, mechanical production. The second one was electricity. Third one was the microprocessors. The fourth one that we're in now is one where data analytics, IoT, the cloud, mobile devices, artificial intelligence, intelligent cloud, intelligent edge. This really does bring about a different model of economics, a different class of products, etc. Robotics, genomics, crazy great stuff. Now, each one of these things was precipitated, there was an invention, a technology, which allowed this industrial revolution to come about. The first one was the steam engine. The second one, electricity. The third, the microprocessor. And it really is this intelligent cloud, intelligent edge that is precipitating this new industrial revolution. Well, here's the thing. Happy days, powered. Oh, that's a great, why are data centers always blue? Anyway, they are. Okay. Oh, calming. Okay, so the gotcha here is that technology disrupts these revolutions. They're called revolutions for a reason. They disrupt everything, okay? Now, disrupt things, there are opportunities and there are threats. They disrupt everything. There will be, or there is a risk of, job displacement. Often the jobs change. There's issues around community safety, issues around income inequality, unequal access. There's a wide list of things. These tend to be the ones that are getting a lot of airplay these days. So let's talk about that. Indeed, there are fantastic opportunities, right? Someone did an analysis of what's going to happen to GDP when we really get this AI stuff kicked in and going. And so this chart here shows technologies like AI can increase productivity. Absolutely true. And they had this hypothesis, I don't know how they did this, but it doesn't seem too far off. Basically, what the baseline is in terms of GDP growth and what you can do from a mature state of artificial intelligence. And you see pretty large increases, okay? But there's also a challenge, and that challenge is job displacement. Someone did an analysis of the job tasks and said, hey, these types of jobs, from loan officers, receptionists, and information assistants, paralegals, et cetera, a lot of those job tasks can be replaced through automation. So as Ford said, hey, you got to have somebody to buy the cars. If you have a fully automated plant and you're not paying your workers anything, there are no people that have the money to buy your products. So job displacement is a big issue, right? It's not just about, you know, the billionaires having the most money. If there are no people to buy the products, if people don't have the money to buy the products, the engine doesn't flow. So this is an issue. Then there are opportunities, right? Millions of people have been lifted out of poverty. This is an incredible story. It is one of the unsung great optimistic threads of the last 20 years. The number of people that have been brought out of abject misery, right? So as populations living in poverty is really just plummeting. But income inequality is absolutely growing. There's no doubt about that, particularly in the United States, right? So this plots out the percentage share of global wealth, the top 1% versus the top 99%. And these things lead to social unrest. In fact, that's an interesting piece of history when you go look at it, is whenever we've had these technological revolutions, each one of the technological revolutions was in fact associated with societal unrest, okay? Large amounts of societal unrest. You might have heard of the Luddites, right? A Luddite, somebody who fears technology. That was a group of people reacting to the first industrial revolution. Steam engines were taking their jobs and they went and attacked the machines, okay? These things are real. Now, opportunities. Access to the internet has increased, but corresponding to that has come cyber attacks and cyber crimes. One specialist said, well, let's see if I said it this way. Okay, you have the ability to reach out to anyone in the world, crack their information, steal their money in a way that has little chance of being caught, and if you are detected, little chance of prosecution. He says, what criminal in their right mind wouldn't be getting into that business? And it turns out they are, okay? So we see an increase in both cyber attacks and cyber crime. It's not just the criminals themselves, it is industrial espionage, etc. Bad stuff. Now, as I said, technology doesn't just transform business, it transforms society and has new challenges. Okay, so in the past, we had a group of engineers who, guess what they did? They moved fast and broke things. You ever heard that phrase? These industrial engineers who moved fast and broke things killed people. Okay, steam engines were not safe to begin with. There were lots of accidents. They're very dangerous things, and a lot of people died. And out of that came a set of reforms. So it doesn't just transform business, it transforms society and thus raises new questions. Okay? So when we build software, we need to stop just thinking about feature function, right? So yes, we do things for the sake of technology. Hey, am I using the right tools for this? Am I reinventing the wheel? But you also want to think about, of course, the business, right? Is this the right business strategy? Is this something that when people understand what we're doing, we're embarrassed and lose customers? Or when they understand what we're doing, they're proud, they're glad to be associated with us, and they want to increase their business. So you want to think through that, because guess what? Nothing you do stays hidden. Everything that you do gets exposed at some point. But you also want to think through what are we doing for society? Because it's not just, and one of the most evil things that ever really came about, in my opinion, in our society was this new, and this is new, it is a new notion that came out of the Chicago School of Economics that said that the primary, in fact, the only responsibility of a corporation is to maximize shareholder value. Now, a lot of people are under the mistaken notion that that's like a law or something. Let me be super clear on this. It is absolutely not a law, and it's a terrible, terrible idea, right? That the only goal of a corporation is to maximize shareholder value. Corporations are stakeholders in a society. There are lots of stakeholders in a corporation. Yes, shareholders are a very, very, very important stakeholder. The employees are stakeholders as well. The community those businesses exist in are stakeholders. The society they serve, their customers, they're stakeholders. And so when we do things, we need to think about all the stakeholders and make sure everybody's getting a good deal. I worked for a great IBM executive once, and he said, anybody in my business, I want to be super clear about this. If you're doing a deal with somebody and they're not winning, like if the other partner, like we're winning, but they don't win, he says, I don't want you to get that business. What, really? He says, yeah. He says, if everybody doesn't win, it's not stable. The deal won't land. They'll figure a way out of that contract. So you need to take responsibility when we enter a contract with a partner that they win, that it's a good deal for them. Like, wow, what a brilliant guy. So same thing, as we develop products, we got to play the long game. Yes, let's do a great product. Yes, let's make sure it makes a lot of money for the company. And yes, let's make sure it advances all the stakeholders that we serve, our employees, our customers, our society. Now, a lot of talk's been talked about, increase diversity. And at first it's like, that sounds like a good idea. I like that idea. That sounds noble, etc. But it turns out it's also great for business, right? In particular around accessibility. So think through, here's a number of use cases, right? So imagine, how would you help deal with people with physical disabilities, say someone that only had one arm? Okay, well, you'd say, we do this, this, and this. And then you say, but can we just be honest here? How many people are there in the world that only have one arm? I mean, yeah, we want to do good by them, but really. And you might say, yeah, never mind. But now think about it. Well, yes, you should do it for trying to help everyone. But there are a lot more people who have arm injuries, right? You know, a number of friends recently that had problems with their rotator cuff, and they can't really, you know, they get these slings, and it helps those people. Or situational environments. A mother holding a child, right? That user interface that you built to help someone that only had one arm can help situational environments, like someone holding something. Same thing happens with sight. Like, oh, okay, there's so many blind people, and n number of blind people in the world, but guess what? There's this huge bulge of baby boomers who are about to get really old and have bad vision and have cataracts, right? The user interface that you do to help the blind will also help a huge market segment called old people. I'm one of them, or about to be one of them. I want you to be kind to people like me. But also the young people, when they're driving, they can't be distracted. So the point is that a user interface that's good for the blind person can also help distracted drivers, right? Because they can't be looking at something. They got to have their eyes on the road, okay? So the point I'm making here is that there is not a conflict between being a good member of society and doing things to be a good member of society and doing things to increase your business. That those two things go hand in hand. They really do. Yeah, so software, basically the net here is software is too important to forget about ethics. And if, as a profession, we misbehave, we will be controlled. And you see that, right? How many people of these tech executives are getting hauled up before Congress because they didn't think about the consequences of their actions, didn't think it through, did a set of things, and now they're up in front of Congress. Changes will be made, full stop. Changes will be made. The companies will make those changes, or the society will make those changes for them. But changes will be made, full stop, okay? So, as a guiding principle, this turns out to be great, right? When you're doing something and you're in doubt, optimize and focus on solutions that amplify human dignity. Now this sounds like a platitude, it really, and it is, but it turns out it works, and it's right. You know, I worked at Digital Equipment Corporation, DEC, and we had a culture there, and it was summed up in a single sentence: do the right thing. Do the right thing. And when I first come there, I was like, what a stupid thing to say. Do the right thing versus what? Do the wrong thing? Like, what do you mean? And it turned out that there's incredible wisdom in this simple, banal statement, do the right thing. And what it basically said was, Digital believed in the moral judgment of us as individuals and empowered us to make moral choices for the business. And the number of times we get into a tough situation and they're like, and someone say, let's just do the right thing here. And it resolved the problem. You know what? You're right. The right thing to do is this, and we're going to take a hit, and we're going to delay the schedule, or we're going to take a hit, we're going to lose some money, but it's the right thing to do. And that simple statement, do the right thing, had incredible power and served the company very well. If you go study the search and study the history of Digital, it was one of the most progressive companies that in the tech industry. So I encourage you to either do the right thing or embrace this one. And I think you'll be surprised at how well this phrase will serve you. When in doubt, focus in on solutions that amplify human dignity. Now, AI optimism. Lots of optimism about AI. Oh, let's see if this works. I've got audio on the PC.
Innovation. It's not just a word, it's an action. With artificial intelligence, we are not crawling or walking or running, we are flying today. Microsoft AI helps an architect bring history back to life. He doesn't see data, he sees fragments of our past. This is now. Artificial intelligence helps farmers grow more food with less resources. She's not collecting information, she's feeding them.
So here's the deal, we're a community. When I'm screwing up, you gotta tell me. Yeah, oh, sorry. I gotta pay attention. Let's try that again. if you've ever, if you've ever seen my PowerShell Unplugged talk, I say, PowerShell is such an awesome tool because I'm a deeply flawed human. And a lot of people think, he's just making shit up. No. Nope, I'm a dope. Let's try it again.
Innovation is not just a word, it's an action. With artificial intelligence, we are not crawling or walking or running, we are flying. Today, Microsoft AI helps an architect bring history back to life. He doesn't see data, he sees fragments of our past. This is now. Artificial intelligence helps farmers grow more food with less resources. She's not collecting information, she's feeding a growing population without wrecking the planet. This is real. An engineer explores how AI can help the deaf see sound. She's not looking at obstacles, she's staring down opportunity. Innovation doesn't see the possibility of tomorrow, it creates tomorrow. And are you ready for the headline? Tomorrow is here today.
All right, amazing stuff. And it's true. And it's true. And this is true as well. Okay? If you recall, Uber a few months ago had a terrible incident where their AI, they had a driverless vehicle, autonomous vehicle, went and crashed and killed someone. So the optimism around AI is absolutely warranted. Absolutely warranted. It is fantastic. It can do amazing things, but it can also cause harm. We are not without our own problems in this space, right? I mean, we had Tay, right? Within a matter of hours, we put an artificial chatbot up there, and within a few hours turned into this horrible, racist, Nazi, bigot. I mean, can you just imagine how Satya, I mean, just such a humanist, and then he's like the public face of this horrible person. Oh, it's terrible. Anyway, so this is not, what I'm trying to point out here is, this is not a uber bad problem, right? AI, it is a problem with AI. It is both a opportunity and it is a challenge. So one of the issues here, oh wait, do I talk about this? Well, let's talk about no, I'll get to it in a second. Okay, so when we build AI, there is an emerging understanding that this thing is a very, very, very sharp knife. And you need to treat that sharp knife appropriately. You need to put a handle on the knife, all right? Because if you have a sharp knife with no handle, like it can still cut vegetables, but it's gonna have some consequences as well, right? So you gotta put a handle on that knife. So there's things around data set biases, association biases. AI can have biases, and it's important that we treat AI, understand this problem, and deal with it appropriately. For instance, facial recognition. Turns out facial recognition works very good for me, right? White guys, works great. People of diverse people who don't look like me, not so good. Why is that? The technology? No, because when we were building the models for facial recognition, they asked a bunch of people, hey, would you do this? And guys like me went and did it, right? And they didn't recognize that, hey, my data set is not representative of everyone. And so that's why it's tuned for people like me. And so this is the engine, right? The engine's not gonna sit there and say, hey, I'm getting the wrong data. It doesn't know anything. It only knows the data that you feed it, okay? So you need to realize that this case, and you need to design your learning model appropriate to pick the right set of populations so that you get equal AI, to get out the data, get out the biases. So imagine association bias. Imagine you have a set of pictures and you label what the people are and what their roles are, and you train this data from the 1950s, the 1960s, the 1970s, the 1980s, and then you see a picture of a woman, and it's going to say nurse, I can say doctor. guy, it's going to say doctor. It's not going to say nurse. And you look at that and you say, well, that's not right. We don't want to have that. And you just need to be aware of these things. The AI engine, let's put it this way. I like to think of the AI engine as, I don't like the term AI. AI sort of seems smart, right? I think a better term is psychopathic AI, psychopathic intelligence. No, really, psychopathic intelligence. It turns out that there's a group of people, humans, that every one of us in general have moral empathy. Right? We have empathy. But there's a class of people that don't have any empathy, and those people are called psychopaths. Okay? Now, psychopaths not necessarily not necessarily bad. Not all psychopaths are psycho killers, right? In fact, in CEOs, there's a higher percentage of psychopaths as CEOs than in the general population. So it can be quite positive. Often a CEO managing through difficult times, lack of human empathy may be viewed as a positive thing or a useful thing. I'm not entirely sure, but it's not necessarily bad. It can be good. Well, AI or AI engines, it is definitionally psychopathic. It has no empathy whatsoever, none. It doesn't understand a human. It has no empathy for a human. It has no goodwill. It has no ill will. It is psychopathic. Now, that doesn't mean it can't be useful, but you need to understand this thing could be a psychopath, and therefore, I'm going to trust it with these things, but I'm always going to keep an eye on it because it's a psychopath, okay? So that's, when you hear AI, I think you are better served by thinking psychopathic intelligence versus artificial intelligence, because artificial intelligence just sort of seems smart, and anything that's smart, you associate with people who also you have a strong association of being people of goodwill, people with empathy, people with a moral judgment. They wouldn't do that. They're smart. They wouldn't do that. This is smart, and it would do that because it has no moral empathy, okay? So. No, I'm not saying the next CEO of Microsoft will be an AI. I mean, there's some people who have argued that AI's, well, we're going to talk about Microsoft's point of view on AI because we have a very distinct point of view on AI, and I think it's the right one. Okay, so as I say, AI will cause harm, right? The glitches will happen as we advance the technology. These applications are amoral, and now here's the problem. Here's the problem. I sat down and I thought about this. I was like, wait a second. Let's think through the model for AI. I have a data set. I take this data set and I feed it to machine learning. Machine learning goes through this statistical analysis, blah, 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 produce this model. And then that model gets applied against an input set of data, and decisions or judgments are made. Okay? Now, this data set, there's an initial data set, and then you learn it. And that model, well, that's not static. It gets done, you update it, generally frequently. And then the data set comes in, and you've got flaws in the data set, cameras that are skewed, cameras with dirt on them, et cetera. And then you make judgments, okay? Any of these things can go very bad, and at some point now, somebody dies. A judgment was made, an action was taken, somebody dies. Who's to blame? Who's to blame? Right? Because each of those things was probably done by a different group of people, right? The AI engine provided by a technology company, the data set, often there are public data sets augmented by private data sets, augmented by community data sets. Then there are the input sensors, the data itself, the cleaning up of that data. You always have to clean data, and then the action. So who is done? And I assert that you're not going to be able to answer that question, that it is metaphysically impossible to answer that question, because when you actually take a look at the AI engines and how they work, and look, you go talk to the AI researchers, they will tell you, we have no idea why it's doing it. I mean, it's working, it's great, we have no idea why the decisions are made, why they're made. It's just statistical decisions being made, okay? Now, the concern here is that this is going to cause backlash, and that in an age of liability, that this backlash is going to cause even more harm. So let's be concrete with an example. 40 years from now, right? So 40 years from now, $1,000 buys you all human compute power today. I assert 40 years from now, autonomous vehicles will kill people. Full stop. I'm absolutely certain of that. I could be wrong, but I'm absolutely certain. So 40 years from now, autonomous vehicles will kill people. If today, but I will also say that when everyone's using autonomous vehicles 40 years from now, the number of people that die from car crashes will be dramatically lower than it is today. So people will still die, but the number of people will be dramatically lower. If today we hold as a bar, you cannot pursue autonomous vehicles unless we know with metaphysical certitude no one is going to die, and therefore delay pursuing autonomous vehicles, more people will die as a result. So how do we deal with that problem? Okay? And I assert that we have a way forward, and that these two things, the underwriter labs and the US vaccine courts, provide models for how to deal with these moral quandaries. So first, underwriter labs. I mentioned to you these industrial revolutions. During the electrical industrial revolution, a young engineer went to the United States, or the Chicago World's Fair, where it was, the key thing was electrification. They were going to electrify things, lights were going to be on everywhere, wonder of the world. And he looked at this and said, oh my God, people are going to die here. He was just horrified by the practices, because electrification was not an engineering art, right? It was a bunch of people, it was a craftsman thing. It wasn't even craftsmanship. People were just throwing stuff together. And so this young engineer started the Underwriters Labs. And the Underwriters Labs was about getting people together, coming up with electrical standards, training standards, certifications, etc. Now, how many of you have bought an electrical device in the last year? All of you. Okay, now, how many of you, when you're considering electrical device A versus electrical device D, did some research to find out which one had a higher likelihood of electrocuting you? None. None. Why? Because of the Underwriters Labs. You do not get to sell an electrical component in America unless it has an Underwriters Lab certificate. It is a set of tests, it is a set of guidelines, it is a set of skills for the people producing these things need to adhere to, and that's why you don't think about it when you buy an electrical device. You know that it is safe, okay? Underwriters Labs really is in the business of engineering trust. Engineering trust. And because you trusted that product A and product B would not electrocute you, you then focused in on other things and then just bought them without any hesitation. We need the same thing with artificial intelligence and technology. Now, there's also the National Vaccine Court, okay? In the 1980s, there were a number of lawsuits filed against vaccine manufacturers because people were harmed, and the awards were very, very high. The result of this is that the vaccine manufacturers, all but one of them, exited the vaccine business. Said, you know what, I don't make any money on this, we're doing it as a service, now we just got whacked, we're not in, we're out. And the United States Congress looked at this and viewed it as a national security threat, right? The herd immunity of the nation was at threat and could be devastating. And so what they did was they set up the National Childhood Vaccine Injury Act. And what this did was it established a court of law that if a vaccine manufacturer produced a vaccine according to best practices, then if and when a harm occurred, they could not be sued. That the claim had to be brought to the National Vaccine Court. The National Vaccine Court had a different standard of evidence, and it was very heavily tilted toward the plaintiffs. But there was a maximum award, it was a cap of a maximum award. And so what this did was, look, a lot of people will tell you that there is no harm whatsoever with vaccines, but the reality is this. The reality is that biological systems are very, very complex, and we don't understand them very well. And so even something that might be fine for 10 million people, with one person, it might cause harm. And so, again, saying, well, that person can then sue, The company did everything according to best practices. 10 million, 100 million people are just fine using this product, but one person had it and had a severe reaction, and they sue and were able to have high rewards and put that business put that company out of business. That does not serve society. So society said, we recognize that there's inherent risk in here, and we need to move forward because the societal benefit of this technology, vaccines, is so great that we're going to help the people for which there's a problem, and we're going to let the businesses move forward. And I think this is the right model for artificial intelligence, because AI will cause harm. Now the trick then is to say, what are those best practices? And therein lies a challenge. Now I want to shift gears and talk a little bit about what Microsoft is doing. I think Microsoft is leading the way on a number of these issues. So I'd like to talk about a few of them. One, a general program that I won't get into the details, and then one that I find particularly important. So, starts with this, the mission statement, right? Bill Gates said the Microsoft mission was to put a computer on every desk and in every home running Microsoft software. This mission statement changed the world, made Bill Gates one of the richest guys in the world, and is responsible for a lot of you sitting in the audience today, okay? But we have a new mission statement. Now, by the way, notice this mission statement is what? It's technology focused, and it's Microsoft focused. This is our new mission statement. To empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more. This mission statement is you-focused, and it's achievement-focused. I love this mission statement, okay? So, we have rolled out something we call a cloud for global good. We recognize that this new industrial era of intelligent cloud, enabled by the intelligent cloud, intelligent edge, has intrinsic risks associated with it. Great opportunities, but great risks as well. And we have, on our own, signed up for a set of initiatives, and this is the one we're on now. We continue to look for new ways to meet our responsibility as a stakeholder of society, and things like the trusted cloud. So we are the ones leading the way on protecting personal privacy. When the US government came to us and said, give us this information, we said, no, you do not have, by the way, let me first start off with, we respect the legal right of the United States government and legal jurisdictions to do proper, they have well-defined responsibilities and well-defined ways to summon information from us. We felt that the United States was asking for information that exceeded their responsibilities, and we took them to court. That went all the way to the Supreme Court. We fight to protect your data, and that resulted in the Cloud Act, changed legislation to address this. We took the initiative to start a conversation around how do societies and companies deal with deal with cyber attacks and cyber warfare. And we set up a conversation we called trying to create a digital Geneva Convention, set up the rules of the road. Look, there is a legitimate place for nation-state espionage. Might not like it, but it's going to happen, and it's legitimate. But there need to be rules associated with that. And so we want to establish what those rules are and get nations to comply. We have a responsible cloud, right? We are a zero footprint, zero emission, committed to zero emission clouds. Is that right? Carbon neutral clouds? I forget the term of art. But basically, we try and get as much software energy as we can from carbon neutral sources. We buy solar power credits, et cetera. We have an inclusive cloud. We focus in on people with disabilities. And I want to drill into this one, providing affordable and ubiquitous broadband access. Okay, so one of the challenges, if you live in America, you realize that there is societal turmoil going on. And as I mentioned, whenever there's a technology revolution, there's often societal turmoil. Many people, and I subscribe to this point of view, say that one of the root causes of this is the disconnect between the people doing well and the people who feel like they have been left behind. Sometimes these are called the flyover states. It is a reality that people on either end of the coast are doing far better than the people in the middle have, and there's a lot of resentment, and that has led to political turmoil. Well, Microsoft has taken initiative to help address some of the digital access, because we believe that access to digital technology can help lift all boats. But that doesn't help if you don't have access to it. So today, 34 million Americans don't have access to broadband. 23.4 million people reside in rural communities. And here's a map of broadband access by county. And you see towards the middle, no bueno. Okay. So we have a very clear goal, and I think we're about a year and a half into this. We want to close that rural broadband gap within 5 years. So notice, very ambitious goal and a time frame. And we call this the Rural Airband Initiative, where it's where'd it go? Excuse me. Remember I mentioned the flawed thing? There is somewhere. Oh, good Lord. I got a video. And it's a good one. Here we go.
Just because you live in a rural area doesn't mean you shouldn't have the opportunity to be connected.
That was about, I'd say, 9th grade year is when I began taking college classes through dual enrollment. And that requires that you upload papers and assignments to the college as well as to the high school. The internet was terrible at home, so I would have to do my assignments really early, like a whole month early.
He had to submit a lot of his paperwork. It's just gonna sit there and just spin and spin and spin.
You know that the deadline's coming, and you know you need more research, and you know it's not enough. It's a struggle.
In the beginning of the semester, one of the questions I asked the students, just a show of hands, who has internet access? And typically, just a few. Right there, that tells me that I have to be a little limited in any kind of homework assignment I give. It's a handicap for teachers in the 21st century. I mean, here we are, hands are kind of tied.
The homework gap is a major problem for our region. And the exciting part is that Charlotte and Halifax County, our two pilot areas, are no longer going to be left behind in this digital divide. TV white space is a new technology that the FCC has allowed vendors to transmit broadband connections wirelessly over previously unused airwaves. Rural markets specifically, it is critical to have access to that lower band spectrum that allows internet providers to serve that last mile affordably. The goal is by fall to have about 250 connected, and we're hoping to have 1,000 families connected soon after that.
It's going to open the doors to economic development and allow the people in our area to have access to a world-class education.
It was a dramatic increase in productiveness and efficiency.
Dylan has a small antenna at his home, which is connected to a TV white space device, turns on his laptop, connects via Wi-Fi.
I don't know the tech side. All I know is it works.
Now that I have TV white space internet, I can use the cloud, and my grade actually shot up going forward with TV white space. I got high B's and A's.
This is where I grew up and I love it. I'm a country girl. Just train our kids so they can stay home and have that knowledge, and then they can bring it back here so that our community can grow.
TV Whitespace held up very well with my college application. Once I graduate, I will be going to attend Old Dominion University in the fall, studying computer science. And I'm very excited to go.
All right, so hopefully I made the case for why, what some of the issues are, what Microsoft's doing. Now the hard part, what do we do about it? It's very easy to sit there and say, oh, we must change, we must do a better job, and hopefully gave you some ideas of what Microsoft's doing, but you might say, well, yeah, it's easy, Brad Smith, president of the company, Satya Nadella, CEO of the company, they can do things like that. What can I do? What can I do as a person? What can I do as a project? Honestly, it's much harder, but I have a way forward. And let me be clear, it's a way forward, it's not a solution. So, number one, got to acknowledge. We have to acknowledge that this is an evolving dilemma versus a problem. I want to be clear, this is not a problem. Problems have solutions. There is no problem here. It is a dilemma. It must be managed. We have a responsibility for the moral actions. We got to acknowledge that we have moral responsibilities for ourselves and our actions, and we really need to shift this focus from just shareholders to stakeholders. And then lean in, right? Educate yourself on the issues. There's a lot of conversations, a lot of resources these days talking about this problem, so that's great. And then participate in these things. Get educated, lean in. But then do what we do. We are a group of people with a set of skills. How did they say it in Taken? We used them. Yes, a lifetime acquiring a particular set of skills. Our skills are engineering skills. So how do we solve problems? We engineer them away. Or how do we solve dilemmas? How do we address dilemmas? We engineer them away. So basically, incrementalism, right? Don't try and just solve this problem. It can't be solved. It can be improved. So incrementally improve yourself, your team, your product, and then build systems which help you find and address the problems. Build systems that help you find and address the problems. That's the heart of engineering. Robert Gates wrote in his book. Robert Gates was defense secretary for the Bush administration. He was asked by President Obama to stay on and be his defense secretary. And when all the secretaries got together about, hey, wasn't this great? What are we going to do? They asked him, Mr. Gates, would you please tell us, what things, have any advice for us? He was very sobering. He said, listen, at this very moment, one or more people in each of my colleagues' departments were doing something that was illegal or improper. And he told them the key was to have mechanisms to find such people before they did much harm. So notice, it was not about, hey, make sure this doesn't happen. It was acknowledge that it will happen, and then put a mechanism in place to find the people before it gets a problem, before it does much harm. So it's not, you want to focus in on building a system to detect and resolve the issue versus pretend it's not going to happen. And the other great point about this was, don't try and hide it. When you discover it, it's not, the worst thing you can do is deny it or try and hide it. Have a mechanism, deal with it in a no-drama way. Engineer your way out of this. Now, the heart of all this is process engineering. Well, guess what? We're sort of on the path to get process engineering already, and that's called DevOps. So let's take a little bit of a divergence, and I'm going to talk about DevOps if you're not already familiar. By the way, for a show of hands, how many people are familiar with DevOps? Okay, so everybody. In that case, I'm going to go pretty quickly through this because you probably know most of it, but I'm going to talk about how DevOps can help be the solution or be a foundation or provide a framework that we can then attach some of the problem solving that we need to do for these issues. Okay, so last 20 years, you had development, You had the wall, you tossed code over the wall to operations. Operations failed, they tossed the bugs back. This was the chasm of despair, right? DevOps is really about merging these two teams so that they jointly work on the entire life cycle. And it's all about these learning loops, learning loops, learning loops. Now here is where the process engineering comes through. Because the heart of DevOps really I thought was encapsulated by superstar Sam Guggenheimer. If you haven't seen his talks, he gives some great talks because he's such a smart guy. And he talks about this thing called the law of thirds. And basically it was, anytime you have a hypothesis, right, you have some issue, some metric, and you want that metric to go up or you want it to go down. Well, how do you do that? And the answer is you have a hypothesis. I bet you if we do this, it will go up. And so, law of thirds. You execute that hypothesis, and one of three things are going to happen. The metric goes up, yay. The metric goes down, boo. Or the metric doesn't stay. So if it goes up, yay, keep doing that. If it goes down, undo that thing. And if it stays the same, eh. So what he said was, what you want to do is you want to have very small, you've heard this before. DevOps is all about doing work in small batches very frequently because each small batch is associated with a hypothesis. And if your hypothesis is wrong, you don't want to invest a whole lot of time in it. You want to throw it away quickly. And if it's right, you want the gain to happen quickly. So it's all about being able to do things quickly to leverage this law of thirds. Okay? By the way, why do you want to do this? Because failures, there's two types of failures. Have you heard this one? Two types of failures, anybody? Okay, two types of failures. In DevOps, you hear a lot of, you need to get comfortable with failure. Anybody here comfortable with failure? Usually there's a couple. Yeah, usually a couple. I'm not so comfortable with failure. Some people love to succeed. Other people hate to fail. I'm one of those hate to fail people. But what I found out, one way to get comfortable with failure is to do the old architect's trick. I like to say that architecture is the art of deciding when two things should be one and one thing should be two. Okay? True. Turns out failure is not one thing, it's two things. Failure number one, you come to me and you say, hey Jeffrey, you know that thing I've been working on for the last 2 years? I said, yeah. I said, I failed. Okay. You come to me, you say, hey Jeffrey, you know that thing I've been working on for the last 2 hours? Yeah. It failed. Oh, for you, I'm going to say, great, let's grab some lunch. Tell me what you learned. You, I'm going to say, what's your next act? Right? So there's two types of failures. And the way you get comfortable with failures is to make them small and learn. If you spend a couple years and then fail, that's sort of unrecoverable. So that's why you want to do things, have this hypothesis and fail fast, right? Because then it's a small failure. Okay, so really DevOps is about process engineering, process engineer. Oddly enough, a little trivia fact, I started my career as a process engineer. So this is sort of in my wheelhouse. As a process engineer, it's not that complex. If you learn science, guess what? You're a process engineer. Because what is process engineering? We call it the scientific method. Scientific method. 1, define a set of repeatable steps and measure the outcomes. We used to call these experiments, right? You do an experiment, you don't change the steps between experiments. You run the things exactly the same way. Clean your test tubes, run this, make sure you got the temperature right. Then vary this. What did you see? Do it again. Exactly the same, then vary that. What did you see? Okay, so repeatability, absolutely clear. Then make those steps smaller. Now for DevOps, make those steps smaller and smaller and do them faster and faster. Then automate the steps. Degree to which there are humans involved in these steps, the degrees to which you get variability. What you're going after is consistency and speed. When you have a human do a step, it takes longer and they might vary things. So you want to be consistent. And then what you do, now here's the key, then you do your law of the thirds. You're doing something in a repeatable way that's fast and you're measuring the outcome. You change one of the steps and you see what happens to the outcome. If you like the change, keep doing it. If you don't like it, undo the step. Okay? So you modify the steps to optimize your outcomes. Process engineering 101, pretty straightforward. Now here's where this comes to help us. When you have new problems, you produce new measurements and new modified steps, okay, new and modified steps. So basically, oh, we're seeing this in the field. Oh, that means that there's something that we didn't measure. Let's measure that thing, et cetera. So these issues around social responsibility, justice, AI, equal opportunity, job replacement, they're just additional measurements, right? And so what you want to do is, like, if anybody here produces commercial products, in your engineering process, you have a step that says, wait, stop. Before we release this, we got to do a patent review. Because once you release it, then your ability to file a patent is greatly diminished. So there are times where you have to just stop in your process, evaluate whether you have anything you want to patent, and go patent it before it gets released. And so what I'm asserting is, in the same way that you have a process, and there's some process for features, and there are other processes for concerns like patents, you inject in the same way concerns for things like security, accessibility, ethical issues, privacy, social justice, okay? So, hey, we're about to release this. Hey, did we get someone that is physically impaired, someone that's blind, someone that doesn't have hearing, someone that doesn't have great mobility to try out this product? No. Oh, well, let's do that, okay? So it's pretty straightforward. Just have the process, inject it into the process, measure the outcome, et cetera. Let me give you a personal Microsoft case. Yeah, we've been pretty public about this. Okay, so I will tell you that Microsoft has a diversity problem, right? I will tell you that everyone, I can be totally honest about this, everyone had believed that they were being completely fair in their head and their heart, right? We're completely fair. We don't bias towards men. We don't bias towards white guys. Everyone's completely fair. But when we stopped and looked at the data, it was clear that something was wrong. Something was wrong. And so we stepped back and said, hey, this is a problem that we need to address. And so we analyzed, well, what's actually going on here? So first, we were doing something, and without any measurements, we thought everything was fine. But we were getting some signals like, hey, you got some problems here. And so then we measured that. And we measured it and looked at ourselves and said, hey, you know what? We got some issues that we need to address. As we drilled into it, what we realized was, as we evaluate leaders, we value a certain set of leadership characteristics that were narrow. In fact, leaders come in lots of different types. And we were evaluating the leaders that looked like Bill Gates and Steve Ballmer, right? Sort of butt heads, red, drive, roll over people, get the job done, people, lots of damage in the wake. But there are different types of leaders, and we realized, hey, we are not adequately valuing a diversity of leaders. And so it turns out that when you change those things, the scope of who gets promoted gets changed. And so that's what we've been doing. And we've then been measuring it, right? And we've been measuring it both in our promotions and our recruiting, et cetera. And we're making improvements, but they're not enough. So we continue to do that. So that's an example of a stakeholder issue that we addressed through process engineering, right? So one of the things we do in terms of process engineering is, hey, when you're hiring these job positions, there has to be someone from a diverse pool that participates in it. It does not mean that you have to hire that person, but you have to consider that. And then that's helped us, like, oh yeah, why? And has increased our diversity numbers. We got a lot more to go, but I thought that was a great example of this process engineering. Be made aware of an issue, translate that into a measurement, look at the process, tweak the process, measure something, still not there, tweak the process again, measure it, iterate. That's how I think we're going to address some of these big, hard problems. Microsoft has what we call the Ethical AI program. Here, this is led from the very top, right? Satya Nadella, Brad Smith, we need to be thoughtful about how we address the societal issues that AI brings about. We've been very clear about our position on AI. It's different than other people. We believe that AI is all about augmenting human ingenuity. AI helps people and organizations accomplish more. It does not replace people. That's not our vision. Our vision is not to use AI to get you to buy more soap detergent, right? It's to help you augment, unless that was what you were trying to achieve. Not sure that makes any sense. Anyway, so we want to be clear about accountability, transparency. We pay attention to fairness, reliability, safety, privacy, security, inclusiveness. Boy, sounds like a great slide, right? But what do you do with that? Like really, what do you do with that, right? Like yay, salute it, but what do you actually do? And we translated this into a set of actions, right? You got to translate it into a set of actions or the world doesn't change, right? We said we wanted to be diverse. That doesn't change anything. What changes something is when you change your actions. Change your actions, we measure something, we change your processes. Then you get changes in results. So saluting the flag on we should be good AI citizens isn't enough. So what we said was, hey, we're going to have a framework for this. What we've done is we've created a pool of experts in ethical AI. And right now, we think this will probably evolve over time, but right now the model is when you find yourself with these situations, go seek help of professionals. By the way, it turns out we do the same thing with security. Like we have great security. We do not require everyone to be great at security. What we do is we educate them about what the security issues are and when they encounter something, when they should bring in an expert. And then they bring in the expert and the expert helps them solve that issue. And so then our guidance to everybody is learn our principles, understand this, right? Align yourself with our moral position on AI. Ask yourself these 3 questions about when you need help and go seek help when you need that. There's a great example. The industries now, there's lots of people engaged in this conversation. This is one that I've recently become aware of. I think they've got a very nice framework for dealing with the issues. They call it the Ethical OS. It's ethicalos.org. I encourage you to go check out their framework. I think it's particularly good. But how do I move forward? Whenever you want to make a change, whether it's a change in engineering or a change in personal habits, anything, what you find is often like I should do X, I should do Y, I should do Z. Often those things get lost in the chaos of the day. It turns out that there's a particular psychological framework for thinking about things that help you make change, to help you engineer a change. And the way you do it is a series of when-thens. When something happens, then you perform this action. By the way, today we call that serverless computing. But it also works for you, okay? So when I see that delicious cheesecake, then I go out for a walk. Like, stay away from that thing. I don't even think about it. I just know when I see something I'm tempted by, I go do a walk. So I'm going to break this down into a series of when-thens, okay? When you're setting up your CI/CD pipelines, then add ethical checkpoints, okay? So you're setting up the CI/CD pipeline, go back and look at that thing, setting up or updating it, then go add these things to that. When you're designing software, then make sure you ensure inclusion and diversity concerns, right at design time. When you're buying products, make sure you're picking vendors that are committed to cybersecurity. When you're hanging out with your coworkers, then raise the awareness of these issues. Have these conversations. Include them in this. Point them to other things. Ask them what they're learning, what they're doing about it. And when looking for a job, make sure the company you pick is aligned with your morals. And lastly, and most importantly, when you die, make sure that you've left the world a better place. That is my talk. I think we have no time. Wow.